Yeah, I mean, so having introduced what these guys do and having a few thoughts about sport and conflict in general there, is there any questions anybody would like to put to them, or any questions about the film or comments on it, about how you felt watching it from the audience? Yes?
Hi, my name is Bryony. I'm from the SAWIP team. I would just like to know your opinion. Obviously, I'm from South Africa, so I like to think I'm speaking from personal experience. Watching the film about the 1995 World Cup, I mean, as it's been said, it's been one of the biggest sporting events about reconciliation and nation building. However, in my experience in South Africa, I mean, although it was a grand event and the sport goes across racial borders, as we've seen, I mean, there's obviously a honeymoon point in that, and it only lasts for so long until the realization that poverty is still there, that people are still hungry, that HIV/AIDS plays such a huge role, that there's still inequalities and racial discrimination.
Thank you. Well, that's been long. But what I'm saying really is, how does one sustain this reconciliation and nation building? Because obviously it can't just occur through sport, as we've seen, even though in the greatest example, the 1990 World Cup. And I mean, we won the 2007 World Cup as well, and had a much lesser impact on us as a country. So my question to you really is, obviously, I can say from my personal experience, sport is not the only answer, and it does improve sustainability in our country as South Africa. And what would you suggest, or what do you think that we could use with sport as well to sustain nation building and reconciliation? Thank you.
That's such a good point, and it's definitely something we've talked about too. For us, sport is the very foundation of community development that we are working on. We're using sport as the initial contact between these three communities, and the intention is for it to only, that community and inter-community development will only build on from there. So the outcomes of sport would be things like, I guess, peer mediation and actually working together for like building roads or infrastructure and things that the region needs to function as a whole. And right now they're all pretty exclusive, so we're going to use sports as the actual communication tool to begin dialogue. But it definitely can't stop there. And sport is the communication beginning, I would guess. I don't know how to say that. And so what other things would help, if I were saying what other things would help sustain it? That's something that actually our organization hasn't, we're working toward, and we haven't actually been gotten to that point yet. But I imagine Brian's may have.
Well, maybe a little bit. I think it is a very good question, and really, it's part of the whole process. I think sport can play a role in it, but it's important to realize that you're right, it's not a golden goal. So, there's this World Cup, and then what happens the day after that. And I know one thing that Sports Rep shares with PeacePlayers is there's a commitment to being here every day. So it's not just one great event, but it's bringing kids together every day, a couple times a week, a couple times a month, whoever often manages to do it. And also, sport is something that brings people in from the outside. So one thing that we do in Northern Ireland is we actually partner with schools. So you bring a Catholic school and a private school, Granted Layer. The school system there is largely segregated. And you bring these two schools together and it gives them we're working together similar to just as WIP does. So in that way, it can be a tool to bring together the wider community. Because you're absolutely right, there's no more greater influence on a kid than his family, than his peers in school. And sport does have a limited role to play in that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have an important role.
Would you say, have you seen your own organizations perhaps work with other NGOs that do work in other aspects of the society, or do you feel that's something that really needs to be developed that isn't there perhaps? That, as you say, sport is something, but it needs to link with other parts of civil society and NGO work, or have you found that a problem, or has it been relatively successful in the areas that you've worked on?
It's really, that's also a good question. It's a very complicated question. There's no question that partnerships are very important to what we do. sometimes in the nonprofit world, the international development world, that's easier said than done because there are a limited number of resources that a lot of groups are going after, and that's certainly one of the problems. That said, most people are very open to doing that. So, for example, in Northern Ireland, we have worked with the Gaelic Athletic Association of Belfast, and worked with Ulster Rugby, worked with the Irish Football Association, and they've all been willing to come together and hold joint events that reach beyond the borders. I'd be interested to know a little bit what the context is like in the DRC.
Sure, there's very limited resources there, so it's a little bit harder to pull in organizations. The ones we have been working with deal with paramedical services, which is huge, because these guys are really close into allowing contact. We're working with child soldiers and victims of rape and persons with disabilities and refugees and IDPs. So there's a whole huge variety of groups that have very specific needs and very specific reasons that sports would be a great resource for them. So pairing with paramedical services makes great sense, and they also have other options like arts and music and other things that would really help the rehabilitative process for these guys. So like you said, sport isn't a silver bullet or a golden bullet, but all together and what just bringing other groups together is definitely needed to build up the communities themselves.